Good afternoon to all our listeners and viewers of the NDC Heartbeat podcast. We're happy to have all of you on this afternoon, those who are on VFM, Vibes FM, Spice Capital Radio, and Talk Grenada, and also those who are on the NDC Facebook feed. We welcome you to another beautiful Sunday afternoon in Grenada with the Heartbeat. Well, for today's program, what we are going to be doing is having an extensive conversation with the Honorable Andy Williams, Minister responsible for MIT. Now, we will just take a short break and come right back to you before we introduce the Honorable Andy Williams. Back with you in a moment.
Calling all songbirds and lyrical legends, the Independence Calypso Monarch is here. And this time, we're doing it bigger than ever as we celebrate Grenada's 50th. Over $50,000 in prize money to be won. Show your patriotism, devotion, and love for your country with your original piece under the theme One People, One Journey, One Future. Don't wait. Submit your song by January 4, 2024 to the Ministry of Culture or email it to sco@culture.gov.gd. This is more than a competition. It's your chance to be part of Grenada's once-in-a-lifetime Jubilee celebrations. Grenada awaits the next Independence Calypso Monarch, and it could be you.
I'm addicted to Kaiso.
Welcome back to the NDC Heartbeat. We have online, today we are not in studio, so we have online the Honorable Andy Williams, and we'll be chatting with regarding his presentation in the Parliament last week. And he has some photos which he wishes to share with us with respect to a number of activities which he has been engaged in. So, Honorable Andy Williams, welcome to the Heartbeat once again. It's a pleasure to have you.
Always a pleasure.
Great, fantastic. It seems as though, well, you're in your baseball cap this morning, so you're ready to hit the road.
Exactly, I'm ready to hit the road. Actually, I was out in the field this morning, and I came back for the program, and then after the program, I'll be out in the field again, meeting with the people. I'm greeting the people, and just staying in touch.
Fantastic. That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. Non-stop. Yes. Now, your presentation in Parliament recently created quite a bit of stir with the pipeline and all sorts of things of that nature. But before we get into that, you have had some extensive interactions with the general public, from farmers to individuals looking for lands, agricultural imports, identifying lands in the Hopeville area, solar project in Carriacou.
Yeah.
It goes on and on. Let us start off, first of all, with the consultations that you held with farmers as to where it was, what was it about, and how was the Ministry of Agriculture integrated into all of this process?
Right. So basically, we had some investors or some people from other islands in the region who really wanted to import some crops. And they chose Grenada because, our land is fertile. And I think, Terry, sometimes we take it for granted, but we are poised. And Grenada have the ability to export, and the quality that comes from Grenada, people love it. Mm-hmm. So we engage those persons, and we also engage the Ministry of Agriculture, and it was decided that this could work. So what we did, we wanted to inform the farmers, and we had an engagement with the farmers to let them know, hey, this is coming. People want to export, or want to import from Grenada. Right. And we do not want to catch them by surprise. So we had a consultation in order for them to get ready.
Right.
Okay. And we went from St. Patrick's to St. David's to Grenville to Carriacou. We left out no one, basically. And the idea is to sensitize farmers so that they can get ready, and to show them that we have a market for their products.
Okay.
And in the process, what could happen is that we can be able to meet those demands once we mobilize the farmers. And as MIT, our role is mobilization. So we mobilize the farmers, we mobilize the Ministry of Agriculture, we mobilize everyone. Even the propagation station where the farmers have to buy the trees and the plants and so, we are in contact with them so that they can boost up their supply for the farmers when they are ready.
Right.
In addition to that, we also identify some lands, approximately 100 acres of lands that the farmers can use to plant and to boost their production in case they do not have lands.
I see.
So,
First of all, what sort of products are we talking about? What kind of agricultural produce are we concentrating on?
we're talking about seasoning, we're talking about melons, we're talking about the grown provisions. It's like basically everything that we can grow.
All right, because we used to be importing agricultural produce out of St. Vincent.
Yeah.
What's the status there now? Is it lessening or are we still importing?
It is lessening to a point, but we are not satisfied as to the level it is lessening by. So that's why again we really decided to make some lands available to them so that the farmers can have more lands to plant. And sometimes what you have happen in Grenada is that when it's corn season, everyone grows corn. When it's melon season, everyone grows melon. But what we have to do as an administration is to direct the show, is to advise the farmers, is to lead the farmers and say, hey, listen, we have this 100 acres of land. We want 10 farmers planting watermelon, 10 farmers planting corn, 10 farmers planting cucumbers, right? And if we do that and we can link it to the export market, then I think, Terry, we would be in a really good place. And that is the idea.
Fantastic. Well, I think it's important for listeners to understand, especially those online outside of Grenada, is that we began importing agricultural produce from St. Vincent, I would say probably 7-8 years ago.
Yeah.
And that was as a result of the neglect paid to the agricultural industry. We need to say it as it is.
Yeah. Yes.
This was the direct result because we gone, if you go back, let's say maybe 25, 30 years ago, Grenada was a major exporter of agricultural produce to Trinidad. You had boats loaded going down. You even had Liat airplanes loaded out of Pearls Airport with produce going to Trinidad.
Yes.
Over the years, that just dwindled to the point now where we were importing stuff out of Trinidad. So we got to say it as it is.
Right. And to be honest with you, Terry,
we happy
I
that
agree with you.
Reducing.
Yes. Yes. And let me just tell you, let me just put in one other point why I agree with you, right? Because my mother used to traffic back in the 80s. And the traffic and trade work like this. You get a sapodilla, just sugar apple, your golden apple, all these things.
That's it.
You put it in crates, you send it to Trinidad. When you go to Trinidad, you sell it, and you would buy goods from Trinidad now and bring it back to Grenada to sell. We used to be doing that before.
Yeah.
Right. And as a matter of fact, Trinidad still needs items. They still need. And part of this program we are embarking on will also see products being exported to Trinidad also. And we also need to have more products on the local market so that we can drive down price.
Absolutely.
Right? And one more thing I want to just add in again is that I believe, Terry, farmers shouldn't have to be spending all this time farming, and you still have to be going outside looking for market to sell your product and all these things.
Well, that is so key.
Yes. Yes. So you're a farmer, farm. Let someone else, let us provide the avenue for your products to be sold. Then you have to be going out on the streets and standing up for a whole day to sell your products. No. Right? And if we can do that, if we can specialize the process in that area, we can get more out of the farmers and we can get more out, of finding markets. So I believe it's a step in the right direction and it will benefit all.
Absolutely so indeed. We just have one little problem that, of course, is being worked upon, the whole issue of airlift for produce outside of Grenada into the region and extra regionally.
Right.
While this is being worked upon, but it kind of needs to happen like yesterday.
Yes.
But
Yes.
it's a problem that existed for many, many years, and we have to work towards resolving that issue.
Right. Well, the good thing about it is that the program I'm speaking about now, we have the fruits and everything is organized.
Good.
So all we have to do is to produce, and the market is there. We have no issue. So that's the good thing about this one. But in the future, I would love to see us, because let me just tell you, we have more Grenadians living outside of Grenada than in Grenada.
Oh, that's for sure.
When you go to New York, you go to London, you go to Canada, Toronto, there's so much Grenadians. And I think that we can find an avenue to export our products to those places. And you know, Grenadians are very proud people. They will support. They will support. So the next step, I would say, is to move to that direction, where we look to export our produce, and not just in the raw stage, but also in the value-added stage, right? So that our people can get our products in these countries.
Absolutely so. But records will show that while
Sorry, I'm not hearing you too well at all.
I see. Blondell, we going okay with the audio? While we would have thousands of Grenadians in New York, London, Toronto,
Right.
you know, Trinidad has the largest diaspora contingent right next door in Trinidad.
Okay.
Grenadians been going to Trinidad since the 1920s or 30s. Matter of fact, the mighty Sparrow, when he went to Trinidad, probably he went there late.
Right.
The history shows that there were Grenadians going to Trinidad since the 1900s and whatever. So we have probably an equal population of Grenadians living in Trinidad.
In Trinidad.
And
excellent. Okay.
attention needs to be placed on them, and we need to collaborate with them, join forces in order to strengthen Grenada. But that's another subject matter that we can discuss at another time.
Right.
Let us go over to what is happening in Hopevale. It looks as though you're trying to identify lands in Hopevale. What is the purpose for this project?
Right. So basically, it's two bits of lands. One is where we want to place the new hospital. Okay, and we already bought it, the land for the hospital. So that is a done deal. And also, there's part to the Hopevale. That's right. So in Hopevale now, that's where we want to get 100 acres of land for the farmers, basically.
Okay, so so just to make it clear, Hopevale is to do with the 100 acres for agricultural lands.
Yes, it is.
All right. Okay.
Yes. And we think, because you have the land just being idle, serving no purpose. And I'm saying that it's time that we get those lands working, because sometimes we speak about agriculture and that's where it ends. We need to really start doing things in agriculture, not just saying we have it in the pipeline and nothing is done.
Yep.
Right? And when you see politicians play politics in parliament and so, Terry, you have to laugh, because you know, in parliament, I heard the Honorable Peter David speaking about agriculture and all these things that he wanted to do and a whole sort of things. But I'm saying, Mr. David, you were in there for how much years? And you are still saying that what you wanted to do. We are here for only a year and a half, and we are starting to do. Okay? That is the difference. So Terry, let me just say this. Even the Ministry of Agriculture, we had a $10 million US grant that we wanted to access earlier in the year, but we only got access to it late in the year, around October. That's why much wasn't done in agriculture, basically, because that was the program, the World Bank program, that was really geared at pushing agriculture. No, it is unlocked and it is unclogged and it is out of the pipeline. So from January, you will be seeing much more happening in agriculture. In addition, when we came into office, the Ministry of Agriculture had less than 40% of the staff it needed to work. So when I'm hearing Peter David talking about all these things about agriculture, I'm saying, Peter, you were there. Your ministry had less than 40% of its staff. So what were you really doing? Okay. And folks, I can tell you that look, next year you will see a big push and a big boost in agriculture, because we believe that it is high time we start eating what we grow, growing what we eat. It is high time we start being
Mhm.
self-sufficient. The ECCB sent out a target for 2025,
Right.
and the target is to lessen imports by 25% by 2025. The only way we can lessen imports is if we start producing for ourselves, if we start
Yep.
being self-sufficient. That is where we need to go. And when you look at back in days of the revolution, that is what was being pushed. 40
Right.
years passed, and we still haven't improved in that area. And as an administration, our prime minister, our minister of agriculture, and the cabinet is very keen on bringing back agriculture where it's supposed to be.
Well, it's good to see the synergy that is, let's say, developing between yourself and the various ministries, agriculture being one of them.
Yes. Yes.
Because if we go to seriously think about what is happening in the world today and all the rumors of wars and what have you, God forbid we have a serious breakout of war in the world. Boats ain't gonna be coming to Grenada to deliver corned beef and sardine and canned goods and all of that.
Right.
Forget it. Each man will have to be self-sufficient in food. So therefore, the pace that I see being generated to be more self-sufficient in food now should have taken place maybe 10, 20, 25, 30 years ago. So we
Yes.
should have been reaping the benefits today.
Yes.
But now we have to start the process.
Correct.
And it's good to see the energy that is being put into it.
Because case in point, look at St. Vincent. Tell me what St. Vincent have that is different to us.
Well, their soil is not as good as ours.
Exactly.
That's for sure.
Exactly. So
Because
let's
I've tasted
compare.
their yams and no comparison to Grenada yams.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But so let's compare now produce from who produce more. Is it St. Vincent or Grenada? And the fact is St. Vincent.
Yep.
So clearly St. Vincent was moving at a faster pace than Grenada, and
Uh-huh.
we had the same COVID. Because I'm seeing everyone like to blame COVID for everything, but St. Vincent had COVID also.
Well,
COVID.
everybody.
St. Vincent had a volcano just recently,
Mm-hmm.
but they are producing more than Grenada still.
Yep.
So there's no excuse for us to be in this position. And also, let me just add to this: climate change is affecting supply, because look at September this year. We are like actually no rain in September at all.
Yeah.
And when that happens, the plants need water to grow and everything. And with the absence of water, that is an issue. So what we are even going to do to Mr. Forrester and Grenada, we will be embarking on a pump system that will be able to use the rainwater and river water so that we can use it to supply water to the plants and so.
Very good. Yeah.
Right. So we're not going to rely on the Nawasa water per se. Right. So we are going to do the rainwater and have this pump that you can pump the water to a central point, and it can feed the other farmers and so through gravity feed, basically. So that's what we're going to do. So we are going to use smart agriculture techniques into this program, and to make it modern and to make it easier for the farmers.
Right.
This is what we want to do. Yeah.
And I hope that we would introduce solar pumps rather than electricity-driven pumps.
Right.
Solar pumps can pump that water to wherever is required.
Yes. Yes, Mr. Forrester, you're on the ball.
Yep.
You're on the ball.
I've been there, done that.
Right. We appreciate that you're on the ball.
Now, in Curacao and Aruba, where very, very hot climate conditions, they have wells. They drill down 20, 30 feet they pump water up and store it in wells, and you have a hand pump.
Okay.
Hand pump, and they irrigate their lands.
Okay.
They don't have quarter of the rainfall that we have in Grenada.
Right.
They're surviving.
Right.
Where there is a will, there is a way.
There is a way. Correct.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Let's move on to Carriacou.
Yes.
I understand there is a massive solar project which you were involved with your colleague Tevin Andrews out in Carriacou. Tell us
Yes.
about.
So that project really is driven by Minister Karen James, the Minister for Climate Resilience, and I just want to put on record that Karen has been really instrumental in getting that project going.
Great.
Now, that project was on the book since 2018, January of 2018. When we came into office in June 2022, and that picture that you had up there, the first picture you had up,
yeah,
Karen went to visit that site in Carriacou in January 2023, and that was what she saw basically. So in 3.5 years' time, I could see that nothing was really done. I would say I saw the NMP put out a press release saying that they were doing all this paperwork and so in the background. My question to NMP is, how long does it take you to do some paperwork? Is it 3.5 years? So,
interesting.
but let me just show you the difference in administration, and you can see plain. We can turn to the next picture. No, the one I read. In 9 months' time, from January to September, this was what we did. So you had a solar farm. The project was completed in September of this year. And what we are waiting on now for the professionals to come in to really get the system up and running. But the infrastructure, everything is completed. And with this project on board, you're talking about we can supply Carriacou with 70% of its energy through solar.
Wow.
You understand?
You had to repeat that again.
Right. With this project up and going, we can supply Carriacou with 70% of its energy through solar.
You're talking about energy to run your home, to run your business, the
yes,
fridge, everything.
Yes, everything.
Wow.
And that's how important. That's how important this project is to us. And you know, for projects like these, Terry, we pay particular attention to its implementation because we know it can impact the life of the people. And you know, we always see that there's one party who talks about the poor and vulnerable, and they do nothing to help the poor and vulnerable besides giving a handout. That's all. And you get a handout today, it's finished tomorrow. What else is there for the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years? Nothing. But how we operate, we look at a long-term measure, how we can help people lower the costs. And when this project gets going, think about what it can do for the cost of energy in Carriacou. It will be a tremendous benefit. And let me just say this also, that this funding here to do this project came from grants.
Grant funding.
Grant funding is money that we don't have to pay back.
No wonder, Andy, Karine wanted to come on to the Heartbeat today. But of course, I'll leave that between you and Karine James.
Right.
But let me shout out congratulations to Minister Karine James for making it happen in Carriacou, of course, with the assistance of the Honorable Tevin Andrews.
Yes.
Andy Williams. But it's obviously a great project for Carriacou.
Great project. And let me just say this, because I spoke about that in Parliament, and afterwards I saw the previous administration sending out a press release. And sometimes when someone says something or they produce something, you have to just watch through it and pick some nonsense, because their own press release fried them, saying that Mr. Williams said that nothing was done, and they put all what they did. So in a sense, it takes, sorry, not 3.5 years, 4.5 years. 18, 19, 20, 21,
Yeah.
So 4.5 years to do just some stuff in the background,
Paperwork.
the paperwork.
It's
And we just took 9 months to install and get everything up and running, Mr. Foyne. So you can see the difference. Yes,
well, that was a 6 runs.
exactly. 6 runs.
Well,
6 runs, 6 runs.
congratulations to Tevin Andrews and to Karine James and to yourself, Andy, for
Yes.
making this project a reality. I'm sure
Thank you.
Kim the King in Carriacou must be very pleased. And of course, the people of Carriacou. Very
Right.
pleased with this project. The thing is, though, when is it going to be actually put into operation?
I would say January.
By January.
By January.
All right.
Mr. Minister James is already making preparations for that.
All right. And who is going to manage it? Is it Grenlec or a private entity or what?
It's going to be managed by us. Let's say Grenlec.
Okay.
Yeah, they're going to be managed by us.
All right. So Grenlec will
Yeah.
manage the project. And
Yeah.
when can we anticipate seeing a project similar like this on mainland Grenada?
Right. And this is what I want to get to, because these things happen through a process. And how it operates is that when you get money to do a project, you will not get more unless you finish it.
Well, naturally.
Exactly.
I give you a plate of food and you can't eat it. Why should I give you another one?
Exactly. So, and what Minister Jane was telling me, because we had a long talk on this, and she said, Andy, we have more funding readily available to us, but we must finish this project first. So the fact that this project took so long to be implemented under the last administration, it just shows that we could have gotten funding for more projects that we did not get.
Yeah.
So the idea is that when this is finished, we are going to make a request so that we can get more funding, so that we can even bring that to Grenada and even more. You're talking about, wind. We can get energy through wind, right? Right now we are looking at geothermal energy, which again will be, very impactful for our island.
Yep.
Right. So we know that the cost of energy in Grenada is very high.
Yeah.
And if you're talking about the real transformation, you want to do factories, industries, and all these things, you will need to lower your cost of production, and which energy is one of the highest costs.
Yep.
So once we get on that train, I think the Grenada can benefit on a whole. And that is the idea. Yeah.
And there's a lot of money available through the Green Climate Fund for these kind of projects.
Correct.
A lot of money available and grant financing.
Correct.
If you can't finish a project, why should I give you more money to do similar projects?
That's the point. That's the point.
ABC.
ABC. And let me just draw your attention to grant funding, because grant funding to me is something that was neglected. You see, and let's look at the UK SIF project, because I'm seeing politics being played with the UK SIF project, and I want to just set the record straight. The UK SIF project was $80 million in grant funding we got from the UK.
Yep.
And I heard Dr. Mitchell said on some of his program where he went out and had a meeting in the community that Terry, let's just reason here for 1 minute. If I give you $80 million in 2016, and in 2022 I take back $80 million, how much did you spend?
Well, zero.
Zero.
Very simple.
So, and I'm hearing that they're blaming COVID and all these things, but COVID was in 2020.
Yeah.
And
so 4 years between 2016 and 2020.
Exactly.
Minimum 4 years.
Minimum 4 years, and nothing was done again. And when we came in office, we tried to see what we could do to save it. But England said, hey, they're unsure about what's happening in the UK. That's last year. So they said, if we started the project already, they would have left it. But the fact that we didn't start it yet, they decided to put it on hold and take it back because they were unsure of what will happen. And I can tell you, we did not give up. We begged, we engaged them, we spoke to them, and until they said, okay, we are going to get back 70 million, because the UK SIF was made up of two components, the Western Main Road and the Southern Water Expansion Project. The Western Main Road was 10 million EC dollars, and the Southern Water Expansion Project was 70 million EC dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, well, here what? We are going to give you back the Southern Water Expansion Project, which is $70 million, but you will not get back the Western Main Road. So we said, fair enough. And so we took it back. And that's how we got it back. No, I was speaking to someone from the UK who was instrumental in negotiating for us to get back the funds. And they said to me in no uncertain terms, they said, Andy, if the last administration was there, you would not have gotten back the funds, because it was following up with them every year, making follow-ups with them, and they were not spending the money. And it is because this administration had a ministry of MIT, so that thing would be different, that they had the confidence that we would really implement the project.
Absolutely.
And I'm proud to say that the agreements and so was signed. Work will commence on the project next year. We wanted to start this year, but because of the independence celebration and so, we decided to hold it back, because that project will mean ripping up the pipelines from Port Highway to the airport, going underground, changing them, because the UKSIF project is a project that is aimed at replacing those pipelines, because the pipelines that are there now have been there for years, maybe over 40 years.
Yep.
And if now I want to increase the pressure of the water in those pipes so that it can reach places that on hills and so, it will exactly will buzz them. Yeah. So the project is to change the lines underground. That will mean ripping up the road, changing the lines and so. And we did not want to do it before independence. So next year you can look for that project being implemented. And again, it's grant funded.
Right. Now, just to make it clear to the listeners, Andy, the funding was sitting at the CDB Bank in Barbados.
Yeah.
And it is not until a government shows evidence of its ability to start, CDB will then release the money.
You are correct.
So when the UKSIF said to CDB, return the money because Grenada didn't use it for 6 years, Grenada had no hold on the money, so to speak.
Exactly, you are correct.
It was sitting in Grenada's account, but in the CDB, Caribbean Development Bank in Barbados.
You are correct.
With the control of the UKSIF administrators.
You are correct.
So I recall when Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell went to London. It was not that particular event that triggered now the release of those funds to get the project going.
Right.
So my question to you, therefore, is what magic took place to have caused this to happen?
Well, and again, when you hear the other side talking about traveling, you have to laugh, eh? Because these are the fruits of our travel. Right? These are the fruits of our travel.
Absolutely.
Prime Minister Mitchell, Deacon Mitchell, he spoke to the UK administration and he had to reassure them that things will be different. He had to reassure them that, hey, we have a ministry of MIT and they will implement this project ASAP. Right? And, and if, and again, if we did not make the changes, if June 23rd did not happen, that 80 million would have been done, lost.
Yeah.
Right? Sure. And so when you hear the other side talking about travel, sometimes we don't have to boast about everything, but these are the fruits of our travel, Mr. Forrester. And I want to,
Well, if Kireen James didn't travel, we would not have gotten that Caracou project.
Right. Well,
you don't sit in Grenada and make things happen. You have to travel in order to get benefits.
That's the thing.
As old people say, if crab don't walk, crab don't get no food.
You are right. But let me just say this, because I wanted to debunk these things, because these people know better. They are just playing on the minds of the Grenadian people, keeping the Grenadian people's minds small, limited, and not showing them the way. And I'm saying, when you do that, you're not doing a service to your country. You are trying to keep down the people of a country in order for you to stay in power. But our style is different. We try to elevate people and let them have a chance to make their own decision. That's what we do. Look at the free education. Look at, the pension and all these things that we do, Mr. Forrester. It's to assist people.
Well, let me just give you that one. A good friend of mine, NNP fella, my partner, he said, boy, how you all giving out things so you give out pension, you pay the teachers, you do seed, you give him money, you give nurses, you give teachers. Why all you hold some of that closer to election? I said, no, that is not a style. When you get it, let it go. You get it, let it go. Let the people have it.
Two things I want to say about that. Number one, when we entered office or in a campaign, Dr. Mitchell said that he could pay the pension. But if he paid the pension, it will be at the expense of the social programs.
Mm-hmm.
He said that.
Yep.
But look at this. Look at the difference in administration. We paid the pension.
Mm-hmm.
We paid the pension, and we are still increasing the social net programs.
Yep. Exactly.
We are still giving Imani $500 more for those who are making $700 a month.
Mm-hmm.
We have given the public service 25% bonus for December.
Mm-hmm.
Look at all the things that we are doing, even though we pay the pension. So It's time, listen, people have to wake up. Start smelling the cocoa tea and wake up. Stop listening to this man nonsense, trying to trick you and trying to manipulate you, right? Because at the end of the day, what I'm seeing is a government who doesn't want to give its public anything, have them beggy.
Yep.
Right? Have them like that in that stage.
Mm-hmm.
And we are different. We pay the pension. We pay the teacher's dog salary. Right? And when you look at even the seed program, Terry,
mm-hmm.
these gentlemen are playing so much trick with the seed thing.
Games.
Let me tell you the games. And Grenadian, listen to this. I want you to listen to this. The games with the seed. In January, they announced that they're going to do the seed for 1 year. 1 year. They're going to give the 154. And as Delma said, they did not call it seed. It was a COVID relief because they could not call it seed.
Mm-hmm.
And the 150 was supposed to be for 1 year. However, they only made provision for it in the budget in their accounts for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Election was in June.
Right.
In essence, when we went in office, we had to pass a supplementary budget to continue the 150. Now, Terry.
So in other words, no real plan in place to pay.
That's the point. Gimmicks to make you feel that they care for you. So when you're here on the Shaggy program, this guy calling what? Chat on the street and all kind of stupid talking about seed. If this gentleman is really honest with himself, he would ask the party he supports, why didn't you make the seed or the relief permanent?
Mm-hmm.
Why you didn't do it? So when we came in now, we fulfilled their promise of having it for 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
We dropped it at the ending of December last year because that was what was said.
Yep.
Now, what we did during this year, we revised, we reviewed the list. We saw there was doctors, there was lawyers, there was dead people on the list. We reviewed the list, we cleaned up the list, and now we say, here what? Let's go again. So we give a $200 permanent increase on the seed program for people over 65 years. Mm-hmm. We also give $200 permanent for people with disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
And that is what we are about, not about gimmicks. So this seed thing being played politics with, trying again to fool the Grenadian people, NMP style of politics. It is time we wake up from that. And it is time you see a government who are actually working for you, Grenada.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
But right. Well, yes. I made a point about the seed.
Yeah. All right. Now, I see a lot of stuff happening with Fort George. Tell us about the work that is taking place in Fort George.
Right. So, Fort George, which again was a project on a World Bank project since 2017. August of 2017 was on the books, and again, it was stuck in the pipeline. Nothing was done until we came into office. We started that project in actually January of 2023. And when we came into office, that project had a 4% implementation rate. And today we can boast of an implementation rate in the 90s. The
So,
project is, yeah.
so you have to you have to repeat this statement. You said this is a project on the books since 2017.
Yes.
The election was in 2022.
Yes.
So you're talking a period of nothing happening for 5 years.
Nothing happening for 5 years. Nothing happening for 5 years.
All right.
And
so go ahead.
so now again, you listen to these guys because I listen to them. I wouldn't hide from it. I listen to them. I heard Cox speaking in Parliament, Senator Cox. And I can see there's an attack, Terry, on MIT. I can see Cox taking about 25 minutes to talk about MIT and we do nothing. But let me tell Cox, he was there. He was there in the ministry and he did nothing. And we have something to show for it. And if you go up to Fort George now, you will see works being done on Fort George, and you will see that the implementation rate of this project is approximately 95%.
Wow.
In just 1 year. Well, a year to finish it. This is what you call action. This is what they call taking it out of the pipeline and implementing it.
Yep.
And that project is such a beautiful project because you're talking about changing Fort George from a police headquarters and so it's actually a tourism site where you can go. You have your courtyard, you have your museum, you have your bar, you have your restaurant, you have your ticket booths, you have entertainment, and people can see the history. The history as well.
Full restoration is really, really looking beautiful. Just looking from outside.
Yes, and also I saw a post on Facebook last week, I think, with Alexandra Otway speaking about she was inquiring if it had concrete on the structure because it was looking white. And let me just tell the people of Grenada that there's no concrete on the structure. There's actually the limestone and limescale, and so that's been used the original material.
Because of the power wash cleaning, it's looking right.
That's it. That's it. That's it. So and listen, these guys are doing a wonderful job. They are from Colombia and Trinidad, and they are experts at restoration.
Yeah.
So they are doing a wonderful job. They are power washing it, they are cleaning it, they are restoring it, they are getting the same stones. I mean, it's just a wonderful sight to see. And when we reach a certain stage, I will invite members of the public to come up to take a look at what is happening. Because what we want to do, not just to do the Fort George and leave the others like that, but you're talking about doing the same Fort Frederick, Fort Matthew, and some of the other plantation housing also that we have that can be restored. I think we need to incorporate it as part of our tourism plan activities. When tourists come, not just visit the Granatang alone, but have other places that they can visit to make their stay, much more welcoming.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So now I've passed by the Fort George area and it looks really, really, you can see something coming out of it that is going to be beautiful.
Yes, correct.
So where do you intend to now place the police headquarters?
Right. So we are in the process of acquiring a building, most likely on a carnage, to put the headquarters.
Right.
And so that should have been done in December. We had one delay, so we're looking at doing it in January of 2024. And when we do that, then that's the last thing we have to do in order to give up the area for the project. We're looking at the project being finished in approximately May or June of next year. So the next October 19 celebrations, will be held at the Fort George, where people can actually go to the site to see what really happened and the history and everything, and seeing exactly how we transform that area. Right.
Right.
But again, wonderful project. And let me give Terry, I must say that, let me give the NNP some props. They have, when you look at the project that they have some good projects, I can see. The Southern Water Expansion Project, the Fort George project, they have some good projects. But the only problem is the implementation. They have it on the books, and that's where it stays. It goes nowhere.
Well, the World Bank report 5 years ago spoke to that.
Right.
I think the rate was either 20 something or 30%
Yeah, correct.
implementation rate. And
Correct.
the World Bank did flag it as a
Right.
concern that they have.
Right. And also, there's a saying in Blind Eye country, one eye man is king.
Well, of
In Blind
course.
Eye country. You see, remember, we had no opposition for all these years, eh?
Yeah,
So when these guys came to budget and they give all these speeches and so, you don't know exactly if what they're saying is right or wrong. They're telling you, they're painting a nice picture for you.
Yeah.
But if we didn't come in office, you would have never known that they had no problem. They had a problem with implementation. But I want to say this: let's analyze. I love to analyze. Let's analyze. World Bank projects, Mr. Forrester, no implementation or low implementation.
Yeah, very low.
Grant projects, no implementation or low implementation. Projects from our treasury, you see them implementing. Think
All
for
right.
yourself.
Yep,
Think for yourself. I see no more.
absolutely.
I see no more.
A word to the wise is sufficient.
Yes.
Now, let me mention to you, someone indicated yesterday that coming out from the National Stadium on your way into the main city area, just,
Yeah.
all right, kind of opposite La Croix.
Right.
There's an open area there that is pretty dangerous. I think someone may have accidentally fallen over into the sea. I don't know if this has been brought to your attention as yet, but it needs some railing going across there. You know where La Croix has the big screen?
Yeah.
Directly opposite that big screen.
Yeah.
There is open area there. If you are a visitor not familiar with that area and you're not walking carefully, you could probably slip over and fall into the sea.
Right.
Can
So
we
I know
see
that.
some sort of protective measures there being put up very soon?
Yes, the Ministry of Infrastructure is on it already. I know we spoke about it. So they are on the ball with it.
Great.
And we can see something happening soon. Soon.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to hear. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
just to say that yesterday's cricket match, there were so many sixes. It's unfortunate that West Indies go and lose the match.
Well, I saw England was stopping some sixes
Yep.
in the boundary, and I said, but Andy, you should go and bat because when I'm batting, nobody can stop the 6 runs, you know?
Well, exactly. So that is what I'm trying to say. If you want the West Indies team, then we don't want the match.
Yes. No, but let me just use some of the time to talk about what we have in store. But tell you before I say that, let me just say, sometimes you hear people saying, boy, the only thing that NDC is doing is implementing NMP projects. But listen, government is continuous. And it will be foolish of us not to continue the projects.
Yep.
Right? What you see happening sometimes is that a government will come into office and they will stop the project of the previous administration because they want to prove a point that they are better.
Yeah.
But we are mature enough to know that doesn't benefit the country. And
Perfect.
what we need to do is to finish some of the plans that was there. And if the last administration was moving faster, we would have gotten to our agenda much faster.
Yep.
But we are, as you can see, it is plain to see a blind man can see that we are implementing projects that came from their time that they did not implement.
Well, it has to be completed. It's pointless leaving it there.
That's it, exactly. No, but what you can see going forward, we are adamant on building our teaching hospital because we believe healthcare is priority. And it's a shame to see we have a university in Grenada since 1974, 49 years now, next year we'll make it 50 years. And our healthcare system is not better than this. So we want to bring the teaching hospital here so that students doesn't have to travel to the UK and the US to finish the last years in the studies. They can do it in Grenada, and they can operate also on the people in Grenada. So imagine 50 students, 100 students leaving Grenada to go to the UK or the US. Imagine if those students can stay in Grenada. I know we have 50 to 100 doctors working on people in Grenada on a continuous basis. Right? Number two, we believe in skill training, and we believe that education is not just the academics, but also skills. And we are very focused on ensuring that our population, our youth, and so learn a skill, and they can further that skill. Right. So you can see us not reinventing the wheel, but working with Neuro and having that program in different parishes in Grenada so that our people can be empowered. Number two. Number three, you will see us working on having some affordable houses for Grenadians. We have Minister Tillisford working on the Project 500, which we want to construct 500 Grenadian-style housing again, so that you can see it being in the motion for next year. Also, we want to focus on renewable energy, because by doing so, we can help reduce the cost of living and production for Grenadians. Okay? And these are some things that we want to do. We want to, again, focus on agriculture, implementing the Food Security Enhancement Project, which is $10 million, but also providing an avenue so that farmers can start exporting their produce. When you compare Grenada with other islands, the red tape and so to export products into different countries, we don't have it, and we are not making use of it. And it is high time we start making use of that. In 2024, MIT, my PS and I and my ministry will have a meeting in 2 weeks. And that meeting will be, how do we help small businesses to grow? You have businesses in Grenada who are struggling, small business, and some of them are unique. For example, there's a guy in the craft center in in Tantine, and he does clay, and so clay pots and all these things. Clay products, and his businesses, is really, it needs help. What we want to do at MIT is to come in, help him train people also to do the trade, so that the trade wouldn't die. Right. And in doing that, we can help his business grow. We can help to increase employment. We can help people develop a skill, and we can help boost economic activity in Grenada. But that is what we want to do. MIT will be working along with businesses, small business, in 2024, because at the end of the day, who keeps the economy running is small business. Small business, yep. Yeah. So we have a lot of plans that we want to implement in 2024, and I can tell you that we will be very focused on implementing those plans. And I want Grenada to rally around us, continue rallying with us, not be fooled by all the talks and all the people who come to trick you and all this stupidness, right? We, as an administration, are focused on what we want to do. We have a focused prime minister, we have a level-headed prime minister, and our cabinet takes our lead from our prime minister, right? And I believe that he was sent for a purpose in this time, for Grenada to rise, and for Grenada again to be number one, as how we were in the 80s and the 70s in the Caribbean.
Way back in the 60s, we were number one.
All right. Well, you're older than me, so you can tell me.
Yeah. Of course.
Right.
Yeah. Lots of the prime ministers in the region went to school right here in Grenada.
I understand that.
Grenada was the seat of education in the region.
Right.
And Grenada looked upon for guidance and support throughout the region. Yeah.
Okay.
We held that position. But before we get to the end of the program, share with our listeners what's the status with respect to the Molyneux project.
Right. The Molyneux project. So basically, again, when we came into office, we inherited the project. And let me go back from scratch, because sometimes you hear again politics being played with the Molyneux project, but I like to set the record straight. Signing a contract with a contractor, that doesn't mean the project is ready to start. No, what happened, Terry, is that you had structure that was destroyed. The people who own the structures, there was no compensation for them, no bargaining, nothing at all. We had to meet with the folks engage them, and come up with a figure so that they can be compensated.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Number two, the contractor had no work, the work permits, the equipment and everything. These things were just there. We had to come in and put these things in place.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the first design was not the best design. Let me just say this. Because you had one of the water pipe, a main water pipe, it burst. I mean, it burst. The water started to spray up on the hill and everything, and we saw the soil was coming down again.
Oh.
So what we did, we went back to the drawing board, and we decided to do the road like a bridge, like how you build in the sea.
All right.
So what we did, we ordered more piles. We had more piles and so for the ground, and the piles came some months ago. And what happened also, we will be building the road on the piles, because the piles have been driven approximately 50 feet in the earth where the surface is hard.
Yeah.
Right. So the foundation of the road is not the land, but actually the piles that was dug into the ground.
So the bridge will live on piles.
That's it. So right now the piles, everything was being organized. The project was on hold for a while because we were waiting on the piles. The piles came, we put them in place. So right now, every week, and we will be giving updates every week, you can see the project making massive strides every week. And so even though you have slides in the area still, it doesn't affect the road.
Okay.
Right. And we also have a part where if there's any slide, it will go under the road. And we made it that tractors and so can come and clear up all the debris on there. So also we are going to get some mats, you call it geomats, that we're going to put on the surface to stop any slippage from taking place.
Right.
So when all this is done, I can tell you that the project will be excellent project. We have to redesign it, and the implementation, we are working with the contractors every day to make sure that they speed up and listen. They are working day and night, Mr. Forrester, day and night. Even during the Christmas holidays, they will be working in order to make Modern a reality. So the project is in safe hands, and we are running with it. We are on top of the contractors every day to ensure that that everything goes according to plan.
Fantastic. So the estimated completion time is about when? Right.
So I will say we are projected it for January.
Okay.
I will say it will take a few more months. And you may ask why. Because this is a project that you don't want to rush.
Yeah, of course.
All right. So even from implementation, yes, I want it to be done quick, but you don't want to rush it because you want to make sure that when the project is finished, you have a quality project.
Absolutely.
You have a quality project, and that is it. So with the first plan that we inherited, if you had any slippage from the top, the mountainside, it would have gone into the road, and again, it would have had problems.
Yeah, problems there. Well, we have quickly run out of time. So what I want to say to our listening public is that we would want to run your presentation at the Parliament the last week. So for those who have to leave us on radio, WeFM, Vibes FM, Spice Capital Radio, etc., we want to invite those listeners to join the NDC Heartbeat online so that they can continue listening to this conversation and indeed to your presentation where you spoke about unblocking the pipeline.
Right.
So let me say goodbye to the WeFM listeners, Vibes FM, Spice Capital Radio, and indeed Talk Grenada. So let me invite you now to give your closing comments, and then we will go on to your presentation at the Parliament.
Right.
So over to you.
So we just want to thank, well, first of all, I spoke a lot about the government, but I want to thank the constituents of St. George South. And I will be looking to change that name from St. George South to the Great South. The Great South. And I want to thank the constituents because, again, if it wasn't for them, I would not have been in this position. And, Terry, I'm really grateful in a time when they could have gone the other way. In a time when all sorts of things were flashing in front of them, money and everything, they decided to stick with me and to choose me at the polls. And I'm really grateful for that. and we are trying our best to, to work on things in the south in terms of like the pasture, the lines pasture, the Granans Court and roads, and so we are trying our best. So but the plan, let me just say the plan. The plan is this: is to improve the infrastructure, and for the last year I've been working on infrastructure.
Right.
2024, we will still be working on infrastructure, but I'll be placing more emphasis on people. Okay, people. So that will be the emphasis for 2024. Now that we have the lines pasture almost complete, we can think about competition for the youths under 15 and over 40 and middle age. We can look at the Granans Court again to start to do our basketball competition, our netball competition, our tennis competition. We can again, there's a competition in Woburn that deals with cricket. We can again give our support other constituency. So the idea next year is to work on people and being people focused, and so you can look at for that kind of energy to come next year. So I want to thank the people of the South, and also I want to say, Grenada, that this government is really trying its best to help move this country forward. We gave you our word during the campaign, and we're going to stick to our word. During the campaign, we talk about bi-monthly payments, promise made, promise kept. We talk about pension, promise made, promise kept. We talk about the enhancing the safety net programs, promise made, promise kept. We talk about education, making education free up to the Tam CC level and the neuro level, promise made, promise kept. We talk about local government, and in Kayako we pass a submission in cabinet that we are going to start with Kayako to have local government, promise made, promise kept. So we are really about keeping our commitment to you, the people, and we are doing just that. Our Prime Minister is focused. We are behind him 100%, and we love our Prime Minister, and we know that you love your Prime Minister also. So this NDC administration is united. We believe that, we have what it takes to run this country. We may be young, but I can tell you we are focused. And the decision that we are making is not to trick Grenadians, or not to put us in a position that we will be re-elected next election in terms of, gimmicks and all these things. We are trying to do our best so that you, the people, can benefit. And when you see that, you will feel compelled to put us back into office. So we thank everyone for their support, and we will continue to do our best in order to move this country forward in the way that all of us will benefit. Thank you very much, Mr. Forrester.
Great. Well, thank you very much, the Honorable Andy Williams, for being part of the Heartbeat today. Honorable Williams is the Minister responsible for mobilization, infrastructure, and transformation. And his ministry affords him the privilege and opportunity to piggyback onto several other ministries, because transformation is just about that. Thank you for being part of the Heartbeat. And then now we will invite you to continue on the Heartbeat as we present to you the presentation by the Honorable Andy Williams at the Parliament last week. So please stay with us.
Member for the South to make his contribution.
Mr. Speaker, I stand in support of the estimates of revenue and expenditure for 2024 as presented by our Minister of Finance, the Honorable Dennis Cornwall. Mr. Speaker, let me start by saying that he did a wonderful job. And I'm very proud of him and his staff. Mr. Speaker, I want to also thank the members of our cabinet. And Mr. Speaker, I want to also thank the members of the opposition for their support. But Mr. Speaker, I was expecting to see 5. But, Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, as we are accustomed through the year, we only seen 4. But, Mr. Speaker, I want to start with a quote from the great Morris Bishop. It goes like this: we don't believe in presidents for life or elected leaders for life. We believe in service for life. And when you finish serve, get out of the way for others to serve. Mr. Speaker, I know Peter will agree with me. Mr. Speaker, the people of the Great South, we want to thank the Prime Minister, the Cabinet of Grenada, and the ministries, especially Legal Affairs, for fixing the mess that we had when it comes to the Kawanabe issue. Mr. Speaker, we also welcome the fact that Cameron Park will not be taken away from us. But we will not be getting liver also to add to the Cameron Park. Mr. Speaker, to the people of the Great South, I salute you. I honor you. I renew my commitment to you. Without you, I would not be standing here today. Mr. Speaker, allow me to place on record my sincere recognition of the hardworking people of the entire St. George South constituency. To my constituents, I reassure you that your continued support of me and your confidence in me has enabled me to be standing here today to address this honorable house. In my capacity as parliamentary representative, I made every effort to serve you, my beloved constituents, with utmost sincerity, passion, and dedication. Mr. Speaker, sometimes I know my mother is concerned about me. Mr. Speaker, my colleagues express their concerns to Mr. Speaker because they say, Andy always going. But Mr. Speaker, if you understand what we face, or what I face, you will understand my commitment to the people of the South. Mr. Speaker, the people of the South voted for me by a landslide. Although they were given money, they were given all sorts of bribes, all sorts of things, Mr. Speaker, they showed their support. And for that, I'm very thankful. Mr. Speaker, let's take a look at the community development outreach and mobilization of the constituency of St. George South. In the area of housing, we had over 200 approvals. Mr. Speaker, in the area of bathroom and toilet assistance, we had over 50 approvals. Mr. Speaker, we offered assistance to residents in various communities, widespread, from Woburn to Woodlands, to Cafe, to Gulf Coast, to Fenton Village, to Frequente, to Coffeebo Hill, to Springs, Mr. Speaker. As a parliamentary representative and minister, Mr. Speaker, I pride myself on governing for the people. Under the Community Enhancement and Empowerment Program, I'm proud of our accomplishments. Mr. Speaker, some of the activities we did again in the South included the Cadiz Bay garbage cleanup, the Pandy Beach cleanup, the Silver Sands garbage cleanup, the Wall Street drains cleanup, the Limes garbage and drain cleanup, Sugar Mill, Drain, Power Wash, CK's Bus Stop Cleanup, Coconut Beach, Garbage Cleanup, Woburn Mangrove Cleaning and Restoration. Mr. Speaker, all this was done with the help of my constituents. Mr. Speaker, truth be told, there isn't a day that goes without me visiting my communities. I try to visit at least 4 days a week. And I know, along with my team, I have spearheaded the formation of community-based groups in various areas within the constituency. Mr. Speaker, numerous residents of the Great South receive assistance under the SEED program, as well as through housing assistance program. But Mr. Speaker, let me just say this. My journey began with support for the people long before I thought of entering the political arena. Many can attest to my helping hand whenever and wherever I could. In this regard, Mr. Speaker, in the constituency of South St. George, we can talk about the distribution of food supplies and other basic needs continued under the stewardship of the parliamentary representative. Mr. Speaker, let me just say that I am at my best whenever I'm helping to empower another human being. This is where I get my fulfillment, Mr. Speaker. As part of the constituency outreach, I have participated alongside numerous groups and individuals in reviving the community spirit and fostering a collaborative partnership for development. This included working with the businesses and church communities within my constituency, such programs also included the funding and sports, donations to schools, donations to vulnerable community members, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we are currently doing work on the Limes pasture. And before we came into office, Mr. Speaker, when I used to be a supporter of the other side, Mr. Speaker, whenever election is coming or is on its way, you see work is being done on the line playing field. Mr. Speaker, to be honest with you, over 10 years now, approximately 10 years now, Mr. Speaker, work is being done on the line playing field. But this time, a proper fix will be done on the line playing field. Mr. Speaker, we are doing work on the Grandlands Court at present. As a little boy, remember when the bus used to drop me across the road and look across by the court, I would see people playing tennis on the court. Mr. Speaker, as a little boy again, I will see we have a basketball competition, netball on the court. Mr. Speaker, for years, the court has been deteriorating. And Mr. Speaker, no one came to the rescue of Ghana's court. To date, we can boast of us changing the fencing, changing the lighting, changing the basketball rings, working on the grounds. And Mr. Speaker, as the MP for the South, I believe in empowering people of the South. So what we did not go to procure some of these items abroad. We got people, and I'm talking about youths in the South, to actually make some of these things that will be used on the basketball court. Mr. Speaker, for years, we have seen Monu's pasture, a pasture where you have intersector football and cricket every year. Mr. Speaker, people have been asking for the pasture to be lit. And Mr. Speaker, I'm proud to say, through the help of the Minister of Sports, that the infrastructure, everything is set up for the lighting of the field. And we expect to light the field on the 15th of December, 2023. Mr. Speaker, when we're talking about lighting, let's talk about the lines. The lines past year was lit last month. Mr. Speaker, springs past year, the infrastructure is there, and we expect it to be lit immediately after the Mon Rouge playing field. Mr. Speaker, we are currently doing work on various bypass roads in the south. And by this I mean there's a road that connects Gulf Coast to or Callan Park to the back of Food Fair road there. We are approximately 80% complete with that road. We are currently working on connecting Gulf Coast again to the sugar factory, Mr. Speaker. We have started work on Guankai. And Mr. Speaker, again, we can talk about Guankai. Every time election come again, it's some kind of gimmick, and afterwards, he just left to deteriorate. But Mr. Speaker, I'm here to tell the people of the South, election is not in 2023. Election is not in 2024. But we are working. We are working, Mr. Speaker, and we are not in the business of making gimmicks. Mr. Speaker, we have seen roads for over 30 years that was not touched. Mr. Speaker, I see my friend Peter is laughing. But let me tell him, Mr. Speaker, because when I speak, I don't just speak for speaking's sake, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we had a Fenton Village Road, which for over 30 years was not touched. The people was asking for it, and not a thing was done. Mr. Speaker, you have a road in Calais again, where you go by the former Commissioner Clarkson. Mr. Speaker, it was said by the residents that one side was green, one side was another color, and because the side was another color, nothing was done. But Mr. Speaker, I'm proud to say that that road was dealt with, and the people of Frequency are happy for the road. Mr. Speaker, while I have the responsibility for the constituency of the Great South and the Ministry of Mobilization, Implementation, and Transformation, I commit to meeting the needs of every Grenadian citizen. Mr. Speaker, we must always remember that our primary goal is to serve the people. Mr. Speaker, I want to support our Minister of Finance and our Prime Minister, and I welcome the MP allowance. And let me tell you why. Mr. Speaker, every time we go into our office on a Thursday, we have to work with extra money. Mr. Speaker, and I can tell you, not just me, but my colleagues also. Mr. Speaker, there was a time when I had no money left, and a gentleman came and asked me for $20 to buy lunch. Mr. Speaker, someone just dropped a bowl of oil on for me. Yes, sir. I love the bowl of oil on. Mr. Speaker, I had nothing to give him, so I had to give him a plate of oil on. So now, I like my belly. Mr. Speaker, so now we have some resources to work with. We can better serve the people of our constituency, Mr. Speaker, and that is why they place us there. Mr. Speaker, our decisions should be driven by a desire to improve the lives of citizens, particularly the most vulnerable among us. It is for this very reason that government remains relentless in our pursuit of equitable and inclusive growth, ensuring that no one is left behind. Mr. Speaker, I try to be an effective minister and a caring parliamentary representative. I am of the people and for the people, and I'm humbled to have been chosen by the people. Mr. Speaker, I take this responsibility very serious. And I call on the entire constituency to rally with me as we move the Great South forward. Mr. Speaker, I encourage everyone to get involved in the 50th anniversary activities and to contribute to the overall success of our beloved nation. One people, one journey, one future. Let us move up, up, up. Mr. Speaker, please permit me to remind this honorable House, Mr. Speaker, and the nation about the reasons for the setting up of the Ministry of Mobilization, Implementation, and Transformation. Permit me also to take liberty to thank the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique for electing this NDC administration to govern this country in keeping with our manifesto promises. Mr. Speaker, in plain and simple terms, my ministry, MIT, was established to speed up and bring greater efficiency to project implementation. Mr. Speaker, it is not uncommon for persons doing business in the private sector to say that time is money. Mr. Speaker, too often we forget that this is also true in the public sector. The failure to act in a timely and efficient manner to diligently meet milestones in project implementation can result in the loss of money and ultimately derails important projects. Mr. Speaker, as a new administration, we had the unpleasant task in the last budget debate to call out the previous administration for its slow rate of project implementation. Mr. Speaker, we had the even more unpleasant task of exposing the disgraceful rate of management and wastage. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Mobilization, Implementation, and Transformation, my ministry, was set up because the people of Grenada could not afford to have a government continue playing fast and loose with their scarce resources. Some of these resources came from foreign sources, while some were from the hard-earned dollars from taxpayers. Mr. Speaker, we created an arm of government whose responsibility it is to remove the bottlenecks and clear roadblocks standing in the way of project implementation. Mr. Speaker, my ministry consists of a small, dedicated staff with organic connections to all major government projects across the whole of government. Mr. Speaker, I want to publicly thank my staff for the hard work and dedication. Sometimes I'm at the forefront and you see Andy, but Mr. Speaker, I have a hard-working staff behind me, both in the parliamentary office and at the ministry. Mr. Speaker, as the Minister for Mobilization, Implementation, and Transformation, my responsibility is to ensure effectiveness and efficiency in achieving our government's strategic priorities. MIT is therefore leading the charge in the government transformation agenda. Mr. Speaker, I cannot overstate the importance of prudent fiscal management. In these challenging times, it is critically important that every penny of our taxpayers' money is spent wisely. Our citizens have placed their trust in us to be responsible stewards. Therefore, it is our duty to care and to safeguard our nation's resources. Mr. Speaker, we will remain steadfast in the mission, and the onus is on us to fulfill our duty to the people. Mr. Speaker, MIT has achieved significant milestones in 2023, despite our small workforce. Having said that, I wish to make only a few key points as the focus of this debate. Mr. Speaker, MIT ensures that programs and projects are undertaken in alignment with our government priorities. Our overall focus is on impacting and improving people's lives and livelihoods. Mr. Speaker, the project implementation record of this NDC administration stands in stark contrast to the project implementation record of our predecessors. Mr. Speaker, I believe that every government needs an MIT. Prior to this administration being in office, Mr. Speaker, our predecessors' excuse and their mantra was, this project is in the pipeline. Mr. Speaker, this is a pipeline. Mr. Speaker, that project is in the pipeline. Mr. Speaker, everything is in the pipeline. What pipeline? Mr. Speaker, CDB and World Bank funded projects had little or no implementation. These projects, Mr. Speaker, was said by them in the pipeline. Mr. Speaker, I'm talking about grant funding, money that we didn't have to repay. Imagine that in the pipeline, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what pipeline? Mr. Speaker, is it this pipeline? Mr. Speaker, we almost lost funding for some of these infrastructure projects. Case in point, take the UK Safe grant funding. Imagine, Mr. Speaker, the sum of approximately $80 million was given to Grenada to roll out the Western Main Road Corridor Project and the Southern Water Expansion Project. Mr. Speaker, and the leader of the opposition have the belly to blame us for losing the money. Mr. Speaker, in 2015, Dave Cameron visited Grenada. In 2016, the $80 million was made available to us. Mr. Speaker, let's look at the logic. If you give me $80 million in 2016, and in 2022, you take it back, how much money you spend in 6 months' time? Sorry, in 6 years' time? The answer is nothing. Nothing was spent. Mr. Speaker, after 6 years, the project for that funding could not make it on the pipeline, unfortunately. Mr. Speaker, the funding walked out the door, or it got blocked in the pipeline. But Mr. Speaker, let me just say this, because they like to call us inexperienced, and they like to call us children. Well, Mr. Speaker, the team of inexperienced children had to renegotiate with the funders to get back the majority of the funding for the choked project, UK Safe. Something that the so-called veterans couldn't do. Mr. Speaker, we did well. We did very well. We were able to get back $70 million. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to report to this honorable House that MIT has cleared up, let me get it, and will continue to unclog the blocked up, contaminated pipelines, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, let me just say this to every Canadian and to the other side. The master plumbers are in town. Mr. Speaker, the pipeline is unblocked. So, Mr. Speaker, permit me to report on some of the projects we had to take out of the pipeline. Mr. Speaker, there was an OECS regional tourism project. Mr. Speaker, that project is the project on Fort George or Fort Rupert, and that's where it was a police headquarters, and we had to make it into a tourism site. Mr. Speaker, that we got funding for that project in August of 2017. 5 years later, that project was in the pipeline and was not implemented. Mr. Speaker, when we entered office, the project had approximately 4% implementation rate. Mr. Speaker, I'm proud to say that today, this project has a 95% implementation rate. Mr. Speaker, let's talk about another project that was in the pipeline.
Honorable MP, may I stop you for a moment? I notice we have an applause from the gallery. It's not allowed. It doesn't matter how you feel about the presentation. The applause are reserved for those in the chamber. So you have to try and contain it. I don't want the noise to continue. Go on.
Mr. Speaker, we have the Digi4 project, which is the Digital Governance for Resilience project. Mr. Speaker, when we entered office, that project was on the verge, Mr. Speaker, of collapse. And Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the Ministry of Economic Development, ICT, Mr. Orlando Romain. Mr. Speaker, to date, we have a project implementation rate on that project of approximately 98%, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have the G-Cruise project, Climate Resilient Water Sector in Grenada project. Mr. Speaker, that project again was in the red. That again, Mr. Speaker, was in the pipeline. But Mr. Speaker, I want to thank again Mr. Bagwan and the Ministry of Economic Development for their hard work and dedication, Mr. Speaker. And today, we have a project implementation rate of approximately 95%. Mr. Speaker, we have a solar PV farm project in Carriacou since 2018, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, that project is we're talking about renewable energy on the island, Mr. Speaker, of Carriacou. Since 2018, nothing was done, Mr. Speaker. And today, we have a project implementation rate of approximately 100%. Mr. Speaker, all these things was in the pipeline. Mr. Speaker, we have the airport project, which was going at snail pace. Mr. Speaker, when we got the jet bridge, we saw all sort of talks taking place. But Mr. Speaker, let me just say this. The point I'm making, it is okay to have an idea. It is okay to have an idea. But Mr. Speaker, it needs implementation. Mr. Speaker, I can go on and on of projects that we took out of the dungeon, Mr. Speaker, and today they are being implemented. Mr. Speaker, the signature project of the Ministry of MIT is a community mobilization, empowerment, and transformation project. This project is ongoing and has a remarkable 95% implementation rate for its first phase. Mr. Speaker, some of us can only see black and white. We cannot see implementation. Mr. Speaker, activities under this phase of the project include tagging and pickup of derelict vehicles and boats. Mr. Speaker, over 1,000 plus vehicles were tagged and picked up throughout Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. Mr. Speaker, cleanup and beautification is another component under the VTP, which has touched almost every parish, especially in the removal of derelicts. Mr. Speaker, another aspect of the project focuses on changing mindsets. MIT has rolled out numerous stakeholder engagements, training workshops, and social media outreaches, to name a few, with the aim of empowering citizens. Mr. Speaker, MIT continues to strengthen its commitment to budget transparency and accountability. We shall ensure that allocations are not just only disbursed, but also utilized as intended, providing maximum value for money, Mr. Speaker. MIT utilizes and improved monitoring and evaluation systems, coupled with clear reporting mechanism to hold all parties accountable for their actions. Mr. Speaker, MIT has a result-based management mechanism designed to achieve optimal results in key developmental areas. In 2024, MIT will expand its capacity to include even projects and programs beyond the scope of the public sector investment program. Through the CDB donor funding facility, MIT has procured a consultant for a period of 2 years to provide technical support and knowledge transfer, not only to MIT officers, but also to other ministries and departments within the public service. Mr. Speaker, I believe that now is an opportune time to provide this Honorable House with a status update of this NDC administration manifesto promises that are now your government policies agenda. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Finance on Monday mentioned some of these commitments. However, as a Minister for Implementation, I would like to reiterate the implementation of these promises. Mr. Speaker, if you read our manifesto, you will see we promise the payment of pension. Mr. Speaker, according to our Prime Minister, promise made, promise kept. Mr. Speaker, in our manifesto again, you will see us promising bi-monthly salary payment. Promise made, promise kept. Mr. Speaker, in our manifesto, we spoke about free education up to TAMCC and Euro. Promise made, promise kept. Mr. Speaker, we spoke about launching a spice replanting program, thanks to the Minister of Agriculture. Promise made, promise kept. Mr. Speaker, we spoke about the introduction of local government. Promise made, promise kept. Mr. Speaker, we talk about establishing a creative economy. Thanks to Mr. Orlando Romain and the Ministry of Economic Development. Promise made, promise kept. Mr. Speaker, we spoke about enhancing social safety nets. And Mr. Speaker, when we do that, we're not just giving a campaign gimmick. When we're saying one thing, but on the budget, we do another. And Mr. Speaker, I will let Mr. Gloria Thomas expand on that in her presentation. But again, promise made, promise kept, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, from the manifesto promises, we are only in office 1.5 years. Only 1.5. But we have already completed approximately 65% of our promises, Mr. Speaker. I expected a clap, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this record speaks for itself. We have made significant progress on delivering our commitments to the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and PD Martinique. Your government has achieved a great deal in less than 2 years since assuming office. Our citizens are our major partners and stakeholders in the development of this nation. MIT, therefore, remains committed to active engagement of our citizens through consultation. Your expertise and perspective have enriched our decision-making processes and ensure that our priorities reflect the people's diverse needs and aspirations. Mr. Speaker, I conclude this debate with an open mind, a deep sense of responsibility, and a steadfast commitment to ensure that the mobilization pipeline, that the implementation pipeline, and that the transformation pipeline remains unblocked. Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you.